Let's now turn to our guest, Mabinyori Kayode Idowu. He saw the birth of Afrobeat, which is a blend of jazz, funk and traditional African music. But he also cherished a special bond with its Nigerian creator, Fela Kuti, who died in the 90s. He was co-curator of an exhibition dedicated to the famous musician in Paris recently. Behind the story of Fela, a unique artist, Mabinyori Kayode Idowu puts the spotlight on a period when Africa was struggling against colonialism and corruption. He explained to Laurent Soustras why bringing this heritage of pure, undiluted Afrobeat is crucial to the younger generation. Mabinyori Kayode Idowu, hello and welcome to Initiative Africa. We are on the site of this exhibition dedicated to Fela Kuti, of which you are the co-curator. How did the idea for this exhibition come about?
My two other colleagues, because there's Alex and also Mathilde. Alex works with the Philharmonie, and I think the idea came to them to do an exposition on Fela. So they were like looking all over the place for people who could really give a narrative of who Fela was, what his struggle was about. And it took them almost a year. I live just 5 minutes away from the Philharmonie. But you know, like all the ups and downs of society, a lot of people claim to know Fela, but they don't know so much. They were putting themselves forward. But my two other curators, they insisted. They say, in every document we come across the name of ID relating to Fela. We need somebody that can really give us a clear picture of what Fela's struggle was about, who he was, and that was how the idea came up. They got in touch with me, and we started to work. We worked for about 3 years to prepare the exposition.
This is not a coincidence because you were a companion of Fela Kuti from the beginning. What's your impression?
I think my first impression of Fela, this was like the period where I just finished my high school, and I wanted to go study philosophy at the university. And then the first impression I had when I saw Fela was like, this little man confronting government, there must be something behind it. And I had the opportunity to have an answer to my curiosity because thanks to two of my friends who presented me with Fela, and we got talking with Fela about life, about relationship between older generation and younger generation.
He must have been very instrumental in this journey of shaping your own philosophy.
Exactly. At this time, I was working as a sales representative of a cosmetic company, a division of the United African Company, UAC. I was a sales representative of this company. I was earning like £19 a month, you know, which for a young man of my age, I mean, it was big money. It gave me, I wasn't paying rent. I was living with an uncle. You know, all this kind of gave me this liberty to go to the shrine regularly because I discovered that Fela Shrine was like the place to be. You learn a lot of things. I mean, contrary to what the government want us to believe that the shrine was a place to just go and smoke. Here I was learning philosophy in the true sense of the word. And it changed my life. It gave me historic consciousness to know who I am, from where I'm coming from. And that was how I committed myself at that time to this Fela's movement. I got sacked because I refused to put on a tie to go to work. And Fela absorbed me as one of the leaders of his youth movement called Young African Pioneers.
What did you particularly want to show in this exhibition?
Thanks to our collaboration with my two other curators. The idea was to present Fela in the true sense of himself, not in a chronological manner, but everything that influenced Fela, that created the phenomenon called Fela Kuti. And that's why, if you remember at the beginning of this, this conversation, I told you Fela was like an answer to the question of colonialism in Africa. It was not just an answer, it was the personified answer to colonialism. And he used his music to mobilize people like me. We got convinced because I was like going regularly to his shrine where he was criticizing corruption and all that. So through this exposition, because today the younger generation don't know about Fela. The younger generation today they are listening to the adulterated version of Fela's music called Afrobeats, even if it's not chronological manner, but through the exposition, people can see Fela through his struggle. People can see Fela through his mother. Because you see, in 1947, Fela's mother mobilized between 9,000 and 12,000 women to fight against the colonial system that was imposing taxes. People did not know this, and in 1947, Fela's mother was saying that African women, there was no vacuum of power in Africa. So through this exposition, we are able to bring all this to show that African society is not the patriarchal society that it is today. African society before colonialism gave equality to men and women.
So how would you explain this link between Fela and France? How is it translated today?
Yeah, the link of, between Fela and France started long before his arrival in France. The only place where Fela was really welcomed with open arms was France. And like you said before, it was at just very close to this place. It was at the Hippodrome de Pantin, it was called at that time. Before 10,000 crowd, French public, Fela was presented in this Hippodrome, not far from where the Philharmonie is constructed today. And Fela made a big success of this concert, and it never stopped because the French media at that time, you had Actuel magazine and all these Nova today, they were all like really impressed by this man, his struggle, his image, etc. And Manu Dibango also had a journal called Afro Music, and Fela was presented in most of these journals at that time. All this put together made what we call today the success of Fela and his music in France.
Indeed, let's talk about Afrobeat, more than music, but a message and a tool to denounce corruption and dictatorship. What's the legacy of Afrobeat in Africa today?
Yeah, like I insinuated before, for me, the corrupt Nigerian society tried to substitute Afrobeats with the S with Afrobeat or Fela. Fela's music is the music of the young man that wakes up as the sun rises in the morning and walks till sundown every day for less than $50 a month. Afrobeat is the music of the poor that does not know where his next meal is coming from. These are the messages that Fela tried, and also putting them in perspective that, hey, if you are suffering, it is not just by choice. It is by religion that brainwashes you. All these messages have all been part of what Fela was talking about. Every Lagos government, one after the other, was using Fela's image as if they are supporting what Fela stood for. But if you look deep down It is just, they were sweeping Fela's real struggle under the carpet with these Afrobeats they were pushing. Because Afrobeats is not talking about corruption. Afrobeats is not talking about the poverty. Afrobeat is in fact glorifying corruption, which was not Fela's idea of music. So this is why they need to change that name of that music from Afrobeats to African beats.
There's the Afrobeat family that goes beyond the tradition and the style of Fela to include those who identify themselves with his struggle. Who are the successors of Fela?
For me, if I understand the sense of your question, Afrobeat took a kind of dimension after the death of Fela. We see some serious groups, trying to study Fela's musical arrangement like I tried to describe before. All of them are studying Afrobeat because they see Afrobeat as a world classic, like the jazz. Jazz, when it started, they would say, oh, it's nonsense music. Well, today, everybody can recognize jazz as a classical music. And that is what I'm talking about with Afrobeat. And for me, these are the things I'm expecting from the young generation of African musicians. Instead of all this Afrobeats, all this machine music, let them go back to their roots. There are a lot of new rhythms in Africa that really, if you work hard and not just looking for shortcuts, to make success. Afrobeats, for me, it's like shortcuts. Afrobeat is the sound, it's the groove, motivating, inspiring, because we can see it today. I mean, Nigeria is a fantastic anarchy where everybody just does what he or she wants. Nobody is accountable to nothing. And this has always been the tradition that Fela denounced in his music called ITT. You can remember songs like ITT where Fela was talking about international chief and how all these multinationals come siphon our riches and go away through the corruption, through the bribery of African leaders. They get away with all this thing, and nobody is asking questions.
Mabinori Kayode Idowu, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.